This video is proudly sponsored by Raycon. The football season is finally over. I know a lot of teams are leaving without a chance at the dance, but we have a fantastic parting gift for them. That's right, every participant is going home with a pair of everyday earbuds from Raycon. These babies feature optimized gel tips that let you feel the premium sound bursting into your ears. Unlike these teams in the regular season, they will not fall out of your ears or playoff contention. They're that comfy and reliable. With over 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life, these earbuds can take you all the way to the big game itself. I've been using them on live streams for months, and I'm impressed at both the audio quality and flexibility of these babies. These teams should give them a shot at the very least. Over 48,000 5-star reviews can't be wrong, can they? Best of all, Raycon start at roughly half the cost of other major brands, yet are just as elite as Joe Flacco in his prime. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/utree to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. That's the everyday earbuds from Raycon, going deeper into January than any of these teams did. Let's go over them, shall we? I really thought this team was on the right track. I even made a goddamn video about it a year ago. Did I jinx them? Or did I completely misread the situation? I get there were health issues and the offensive line was hot garbage. But those ugly losses against the Raiders, and Atlanta, and Jacksonville in the London Bowl, you're probably gonna want those back. Failures as ugly as the whole Deshaun Watson saga that never ended up happening. It looked awful. But when you rattle off 8 of 9 wins after starting 1-7, I find it impressive, even if most of their opponents were what you'd call easy. The fact that they rallied around themselves to overcome an incredibly shitty start should be signs of progress, right? Just like Will Fuller's projected performance in this offense, it was deceiving. Tensions had boiled underneath with a civil war brewing between Chris Greer and Brian Flores. There were grumblings that Stephen Ross wasn't happy with Flores fucking up their precious tank a few years ago. And they were all but confirmed when Miami jammed an axe in his back. When an owner allegedly offers $100,000 per loss in 2019, that's an ethical issue. One that ruins the sanctity of the game. It's become a he said, she said slap fight. The Dolphins have become a circus. And this kind of shit is how bad franchises stay bad. Mike McDaniel might be a good coach for them, but I can't take a franchise seriously when they shit on the main reason why they were able to revive. Not to mention Flores is suing the NFL for alleged discrimination. There's a good chance he may never get a job in the league again. And it's a damn shame. The Shield doesn't like those that bite the hand that feeds. And Ross might be joining him in the Colts soon enough. That spineless boob at least deserves it. Sometimes you have to stop and wonder if Joe Namath made a deal with unsavory characters to win Super Bowl III. How else can you explain all the horrific misfortunes that have befallen the Jets franchise since then? You could tell they were done before the season even started thanks to all of the injuries accrued on defense. Once the games began, the typical Jetsing that has become so commonplace these days. Sloppy play, a defense that defends as well as a twig against a raging waterfall, and an offense existing to see Zach Wilson get destroyed nearly every chance they got. Can't really gauge Wilson since everything was so fucked from the word go. He was running for his life most times he was under center. All you need to say was that their main highlight was a journeyman QB and Mike motherfucking White. He should have been given more chances. That guy was a fucking legend and he was screwed by benchings and COVID. Now I feel that the Jets organization is trying everything they can to get on the right track, but I fear they're running out of time. All you can hope for if you're a fan? Stay healthy and make some semblance of progress. Anything to let them see greener pastures again. Even when the Ravens were looked at as an AFC North contender, I didn't take them seriously. If you watched their games closely, you saw serious warning signs. They were playing with fire repeatedly, dancing through way too many raindrops during the season. Baltimore was 8-3, but they were a massive comeback from Lamar and a literal kick of God from Justin Tucker away from being mediocre. It's nothing disparaging about them, it's just the truth. We all knew why they were going to slide back into irrelevance. The injuries. They had been wrecked since the preseason. Team lost all their fucking running backs before a game was even played. And it didn't stop. Every week that passed, well, there's 2 more key players down long term. At minimum. It all leads to the classic trope of the Ravens ripping their fans' hearts out of them and crushing it by industrial press. 6 straight losses to end the year to finish under 500. The analytical sword gives 0 fucks about being out of cornerbacks. It only cares about results. Against the Steelers and Packers, a one-way ticket to 2-point conversion hell. After that experience, Los Angeles in a painful comeback drive. Then get clowned by Pittsburgh again in an overtime slop fest. Did I mention that Lamar went down with injury as well? I didn't. He's an enigma. He shows brilliant moments, but puts together some massive duds when he's forced to throw. So do you give him the big bucks? If injuries start to slow him down, you're stuck with another Joe Flacco situation. And we all know where that leads. This collapse has cost Wink Martindale his job. And another painful year may cost them more. Soon enough, the city of Baltimore itself will fall victim to injury in the next few months. Ain't this a perfect microcosm of Cleveland or what? The most talented team the Browns have boasted since the 80s, and they proceed to fall apart in nearly every conceivable way. Anytime they had a chance to do anything, nope, there's a crucial interception by Baker. Nope, here's Jarvis Landry's hands turning into stone at the worst possible times. Nope, the team's unable to capitalize on Lamar Jackson turning into complete ass. Injuries played a role, but that's an unfortunate cop-out in most cases. The whole team felt off. There was no cohesion. The tactics left a lot to be desired. The biggest impact they had on the year was off-field drama. Not to mention Baker Mayfield. With his injury, he should have never been playing. The torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder fucked his mechanics. He became a colossal liability. And the Browns refused to acknowledge that his headstrong tendencies were costing the team. Now everyone wonders if Baker is the real answer moving forward. On top of that, they get one of the more painful seasons they've had in recent history. That Super Bowl run should have been theirs. And now it's fucking Cincinnati's. Not to mention Odell Beckham Jr. proved himself right by reviving his career in Los Angeles to win a ring. Baker can shoot all the commercials he wants, but for the Browns, it's nothing but regression to an old standard. Welcome back.
You are a factory of sadness! I'll see you Sunday.
This team punted their season away like the poor leg of the bastard assigned to it. Cameron Johnston should seek restitution, for he was abused thanks to a Texan squad that was overmatched in all aspects. All they could do was try to clean up after the blustering butt-chin's terrible reign. When people are more interested in the saga of Deshaun Watson instead of the product on the field, I'd say things are pretty fucked, no? By the way, there was no happy ending on that front. Watson's still here and no word on if a settlement will be reached soon. What else do we discuss? The fact that nearly every veteran was cut? Davis Mills showing flashes but wondering if he'll be ruined in Houston? That the poor patsy known as David Culley was Jim Tomsullet after the season? No, I know what we talk about. The coaching search. Houston wanted to hire Josh McCown as their head coach so fucking bad. They were telegraphing that shit so blatantly that God himself was facepalming at Jack Easterby's manipulation. Only issue was that Houston couldn't make it look good to the fans. If they went through with it, the city would have burned down not only Energy Stadium, but the Astrodome as well. So they settle for a compromise and promote Lovie Smith to hopefully bring stability with his fantastic, whimsical beard. If you were gonna do this, why not just keep Culley? You would have saved a few bucks doing that instead. Wow. You really are pathetic, Colts. Who knew that a team with this much talent on both sides of the ball, the league leader in rushing, 7 Pro Bowlers, 4 All-Pros, and a coaching staff being picked apart by other teams would somehow find a way to keep the glue factory running? Jesus Christ himself couldn't save this shit stain of a franchise. The point differential was impressive, but then you realize that most of it was due to beating up on easy opponents. The big issue for Indy early on was that they could never finish the job against playoff contenders. They gave them a fight, but something somewhere would go wrong. Either the defense would buckle, or the run game would be stuffed, or Carson Wentz would happen. As predicted, he improved with a stronger system in front of him, but then he'd go back to his "what the fuck are you doing" mode and self-destruct in a church full of nuns. Then they seemingly found form. The Colts were looking strong. They beat legit opponents. They were a team no one wanted to face. All they had to do was beat fucking Jacksonville. Duval dressing up like clowns to show them as the biggest joke in the league. It's all that needed to be done, yet they still couldn't do it. They choked. Wentz put together a performance that Philly celebrated by proxy. It's another lost season for a team still paying for sins of the past. At this point, what do? Carson Wentz has made Indy cringe enough that he's all but secured his own exile. Frank Reich and Chris Ballard have to be on the hot seat. Are they going to spend money on free agents or do the Ted Thompson route of drafting their way to wasting talent? Clock's ticking, boys. Lord knows you've squandered the last few seasons. Send in the clowns. In all honesty, I think clowns would run Jacksonville better than whatever's supposed to be in charge of them right now. Oh, Lord have mercy, because the rest of us won't. Jags fans are going to erase this year so fast that it'll make Tiananmen seem like a minor inconvenience. Urban Meyer was a desperation heave of a hire from the beginning, and Jacksonville's lack of due diligence was hilarious to the rest of us. Seeing Urban think he was still in Gainesville and act like God himself with a harem of co-eds by his side. Not traveling back home with the team after games, kicking players, creating a culture of fear, undermining team operations. It was truly a disaster not seen since Bobby Petrino. The worst part is that Petrino won more at this level. Everything stagnated. Trevor Lawrence only threw one touchdown pass in nearly 2 months. They're going to Andrew Luck him so fast it'll be painful to watch. Hell, they already did it to James Robinson in more ways than one. The defense had 2 speeds, giving 0 fucks due to the chaos or speed dialing their agents to get the fuck out. Yet even for all of that, the inmates are still running the asylum in Duval. Trent Baalke is somehow still employed. The Jags did nearly everything in their power to fuck up their coaching search, be it from botching interviews with Kevin O'Connell to fooling everyone into thinking they'd hired Byron Leftwich and Adrian Wilson. No, firing Baalke's going to cost too much money for Shad Khan. Best to not rock the boat and clean the culture of shit that's been festering for years. You get Doug Peterson. He won a Super Bowl, you'll say. Yet ignore he won it because of Frank Reich and facing a Matt Patricia defense. It's not the worst case scenario, he'll at least try to build some semblance of culture. And if things go to shit, he knows how to deal with meddlesome GMs. Good luck, Clownsville. Honk honk. This team only had an offense. Under different circumstances, we'd say that the Broncos would have made the playoffs and been knocked out in brutal fashion against, let's say, Kansas City. However, that's not considering the remedial nature of what Denver considered an offense. Vic Fangio really trusted Pat Shurmur with it. Pat Shurmur, master of the check down on 3rd and long. Sensei of underutilizing an emerging dual-threat running game. The god of wasting an elite defense more often than not. Every chance the Broncos had to do anything, there were 3 laws that followed. The offense couldn't find any Viagra to get the blood pumping, the offense fumbled away everything in critical situations, or the offense put as much effort into their craft as Teddy Bridge underwater did in tackling. I feel bad for that guy. When he tried to do things, he was concussed. Then you got true pass locked. Horsecock? Yeah, right. Their inability to move the ball forward forced Vic Fangio and company to move on. To replace him, a Duval cast-off you could argue was carried by Aaron Rodgers. Did I say Aaron Rodgers? That's the game plan for this offseason. Aaron Rodgers and then profit. Which means that Kirk Cousins will be their starting quarterback in 2022. I don't make the rules, kids. Keep wondering when the Chargers are going to manage to do something. They stumble into another great quarterback talent in the draft, an offense filled with dreams and an overhauling of the offensive line to help him out. That should be more than enough to get you into the playoffs. Hell, there were many considering them as a goddamn Super Bowl contender at the beginning of the year. The flash and pizzazz distracted us from the glaring flaws of the team itself. They have no defense. It's non-existent. Their run defense was abhorrent, giving up 100-yard rushing games on the ground in 12 of 17 tries. The pass coverage suffered as a result, and it was usually at the worst possible times. It was better than their ground counterpart, but that's like saying Mussolini was kinder than Hitler. Therefore, the offense was forced to go balls out to compensate for the stone trying to drag them into the abyss. It didn't work most times. Brandon Staley is an acolyte of analytics, and he was one of the more aggressive play callers we've seen in NFL history. Sometimes it worked, others he was decapitated by it. He overthought a lot of things, and he'll have to hone it to have any success long term. It was emphasized by calling a timeout in overtime against the Raiders. Even if Las Vegas said what they said for gamesmanship, it allowed their opponent to regroup and, shocker, expose their god-awful run defense. Season over. More incredible pain for the bastard child no one wants. Did I mention that Big Brother and the Rams won a ring? They'll be rubbing that in every chance they get as part of your rent payment. Want to try and stop it? How about you beat the fucking Texans in the gimme match? A season that was absolutely critical to the Giants organization sitting in front of them. And they derp it so badly that even their most diehard fans want nothing to do with it. You know, boys, the point of a rebuild is to make some semblance of an effort to rebuild. Not to delude yourselves by thinking the smell of your own ass stench is an intoxicating aroma. This kind of shit leads to strokes of genius, like jumping off sides to blow a game against Washington. Watching as nearly every free agent signing falls apart, led by no TD Golladay and Nate Soldered feet. Mike Glennon as backup quarterback. An offense that becomes so terrible that the apparent best course of action is a quarterback sneak near their own goal line on a 3rd and 9. The only kick the team had this year was John Mara against some poor trash cans. You want the season symbol of failure? 3 words. Free medium soda. The pinnacle of organizational ignorance. Not only did they allow Dave Gettleman to retire with dignity after being fucking terrible at his job, but they wanted to keep Joe Judge around. Apparently being an arrogant blowhard is the Giants' way. But after realizing no good GM candidate would come here with him employed, they repackaged him back to Belichick. Even if they choose to blow it up, they have some futures to work with. 2 top 10 picks, albeit in a weak draft. Joe Shane brought in from Buffalo with his buddy and Belichick tree alum Brian Daboll as coach. I hope Daboll realizes that there isn't a Josh Allen to be developed right now. It's Danny Derps. And the Giants are stubborn enough to think he's their solution at QB next year. Look, I get every other option you had was ass, but Jones fumbles away every opportunity he gets. I will taunt John Mara for his fuck-ups like he taunts the fan base with his actions. I'll make sure it's a point of emphasis. Dan Snyder is still majority owner of the team. That's all I need to say about this pathetic franchise. However, that's not fun. We need something to overtake the misfortunes and disappointments of the on-field product. Fitzception going down to injury in the first game, forcing them to overexpose Taylor Heineke to a national audience. The team defense going from stout to suspect faster than the team's past pride vanished. Note that this was before the shitty home field turf sacrificed key players' knees. The year was depressing, and showed in an underwhelming finish. Yes, Washington did deal with some real-life shit, but the real problems lie around them. Quite literally around them. FedEx Field is symbolic of Snyder's reign. A hollow shell of clinging to past glory, spewing shit on top of anyone that dares breathe in his presence. A screaming concrete death trap to both fan and player alike. A home as shoddy, rushed, and pathetic as Sean Taylor's jersey retirement ceremony that totally wasn't done to try and cover up a massive email scandal. Every move that sniveling coward of an owner has done since 2020 is to beg to not sell the team. And that includes the new name of the franchise. The Commanders. Bland, sterile, and soulless. It's exactly what Snyder wants. Get the attention away from how he runs things. Do not gaze behind the curtain. Look at what's on the field! On second thought, don't do that. You might tear your ACL by proxy. Everyone with a pulse knew that the Bears making the playoffs last year was the worst-case scenario for them. Even worse when management made a play to prolong their tenures by trading a ransom to draft Justin Fields. Let me throw a formula out there and you can decide the rest. When you take a terrible offensive line, then add in a quarterback carousel no one likes, multiply it by a rookie the Bears are forcing into a system that doesn't fit him at all, then divide that by the number of times they tried to kill Fields on long developing plays. You get a quarterback the team is trying to ruin. It's one thing when Fields is still raw, but they're not even giving him a chance to develop. So why did you franchise Allen Robinson? So he can do nothing? The defense can't bail them out forever, they're being sent to the infirmary. Wonderful, a wasted season for a team that's been the poster child for keeping family away from business. Nagy and Pace were fired a year too late. Great. They weren't the real issue. The problems are in Ted Phillips and the McCaskies. And they're still here. Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus are the new victims, GM and head coach. I can't tell if they were the best people available or if the Bears were too cheap to change out the Matt and Ryan business cards. Aaron Rodgers might say he owns you, but Chicago begs for it to be real. He'd be an infinitely better owner than the McCaskies are. I've said it before and I mean it completely unironically. This is the best season the Detroit Lions have had in years. When you look at the team on the surface, you'll think I'm crazy, and it's understandable. Detroit has no talent, they're beginning roughly their 10th deep rebuild in 20 years, and the Ford family still hasn't a clue to run a football team by osmosis. Even then, Dan Campbell has done things that the Lions haven't seen in a while. Coach a team that plays with heart. His players, while lacking ability, would run through walls for that man. There were endless obstacles thrown in their way. Endlessly painful defeats, injuries wrecking the defense, Jared Goff. It'd be enough for a team to unanimously win the Tank Bowl, but Detroit overcame it. They showed progression, and to be frank, that's all you can hope for in these kinds of years. If there's one suggestion I'd make, Dan, stop calling offensive plays. Anthony Lynn may have been terrible at it, but some of Dan's calls were very baffling. That's a minor nitpick, however. It will hopefully call a better future soon. One where Aiden Hutchinson is drafted and the city celebrates Matthew Stafford proving Detroit's a shitpile by winning a ring the first year he leaves. It's the greatest accomplishment the Lions have had this millennium. This Vikings year was just so Vikings that it somehow out-Vikinged the rest of their hilarious fuck-ups. That's all you need to say. As many chances as they had to make something of themselves. As often as we all thought they had the talent to be much better than what they were. All this proved was how badly Mike Zimmer was holding the team back. Do you want me to go over them in excruciating detail? Perhaps in how an overtime fumble against the Bengals cost them what should have been a tough win? Or maybe we can talk about how place kickers come to this team to die in the clutch. Doing nothing at home against Cleveland? Losing to a Dallas team starting Cooper Rush at QB while collapsing on offense? Kirk Cousins lining up under the wrong fucking lineman against San Francisco? Wait, I got the moment. Being the first team to lose to the Detroit Lions by means of shitty coverage. Oh, what a Viking season it truly was. And it's finally forced the team to admit they need an executive overhaul. Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman were finally thrown out. And hopefully their shortcomings are gone with them. In their stead, a GM from the Cleveland School of Analytics and Sean McVay's next apprentice in Kevin O'Connell. This may be the end of the Herschel Walker 2.0 era and Kirk Cousins too if the trade market is enticing enough. Just like every other sports team in Minnesota, there is only relentless underachieving and failed ambitions. I wonder if they can ever break out of it. Their record is relatively deceiving. The Falcons were a weak franchise that got butt-fucked in most of their losses, to the sheer horror of anyone who bothered to watch. Yet, for some strange reason, this team felt different than past vintages of choke. Instead of randomly blowing close games, they'd find ways to win them. They were 7-2 in one-score games at one point. Even if it was against bad opponents, that doesn't happen without a legitimate reason behind it. Perhaps the regime change is leading them in the right direction. But there's no denying that Atlanta overachieved. I'd rather see that than the standard fare, but what's the plan moving forward? Will Matt Ryan be willing to tolerate a rebuild at this stage of his career? Especially considering what happened to Matthew Stafford once he left Detroit? What about Calvin Ridley? Does he come back or is he going to move on with his life? They don't have the cap space to reload, they're already over for next year. I wonder with a fresh set of eyes if the Falcons finally begin to clean up the mess left after 28-3. They've ignored it for far too long. How they go from here, however, is up to them to decide. Atlanta can't go back. There's nothing there. Just the charred ashes of the past. The line between a competent rebuild and an absolute shit show is a thin one. When you see the Carolina Panthers, you can understand how perilous the balancing act is. Early in the year, easy opponents, yes, but a 3-0 start is promising enough. Sam Darnold doesn't look like complete ass. They could be something, they said. Oh, they were something. If you consider a smoldering trash fire or something, I guess. After that good start, the only thing that started was a transformation into a complete and utter mockery of what's supposed to be a football team. How do we know this? Look at what happened after Christian McCaffrey got injured for roughly the 8th time in 3 seasons. Without a great running back, Darnold regressed to a trauma that even the Jets barely saw. His offensive line was so bad that Cam Irving was the blindside blocker. Cam Irving! Even worse, Mono Man had one mode. Unable to throw a football. Somewhere Adam Gase swells in pride after being proven right about the QB he ruined. Things were so awful on offense that ownership meddled and signed the silly putty shoulder of Cam Newton to appeal to nostalgia and get more asses in seats. It was fucking depressing to see him try and throw. No, Cam, you're not back, you're done. Just like Carolina was by losing their last 7 games. They showed nothing but complete regression on all fronts. Joe Brady went from hot coaching prospect in 2020 to fired because he wouldn't run the ball? Matt Rule is being exposed as a fraud very, very quickly. 2, sometimes 3 quarterback systems? What the hell was he doing at Temple and Baylor? The only reason he's still here can be summed up in this. 5 years, $45 million. That's how much he's still owed. Tepper doesn't want to pay him a massive severance. As they deal with an anchor of a coaching contract and go hunting for another quarterback, we all sit and laugh at how they locked in Darnold's 5th-year option before the season. Even Jerry Richardson wasn't this headstrong when he owned the team. This is going to be one of the bigger what-if scenarios in this NFL era. A team that had been consistently blessed with elite talent, but whose only consistency was in brutal playoff failures. Yes, they have a Super Bowl ring, but it's been over a decade since then. This league is one that says, "What have you done for me lately?" In terms of the Saints, this year was a painful reminder that playoff windows usually fade with a whimper. Injuries destroyed them. They were without a significant chunk of their offensive weapons. Sometimes, in the case of Mike Thomas and Will Lutz, for the whole season. New Orleans was somehow in the playoff race, but let's be real. Their hopes died the moment famous Jameis tore his ACL. They lacked a legitimate backup option to carry them anywhere notable. Taysom Hill is good in doses, but that's it. What else is there? Trevor Siemian? Throwing to those practice squad receivers? Behind that ragtag O-line, nothing was more anti-football than watching them be forced to play down over 20 men against Miami. The less said about that COVID bullshit, the better. As they missed the playoffs due to the Rams fucking up, the time to pay the piper has come due. Constant restructuring has left the Saints about $65 million over the cap. Rumors of longtime vets being cut spread like disease, but the real loss will be felt off of it. Sean Payton is leaving the organization. Burnout has gotten the best of him, and he's taking time off to pursue other passions in life. Dennis Allen is replacing him to retain continuity, but this is why you can't squander opportunities when you have them. Because you end up like New Orleans. It might be a long and dark road ahead. Hope you find a lantern somewhere. You know when something feels like it's at the end, yet you want to cling on to dear life to whatever's left of that past glory? Why do I get the feeling that the Seahawks are there? This year felt off from the beginning. Maybe it was that embarrassing loss to the Titans at home in Week 2. Maybe it was the offense's failure to launch in more than a few circumstances, but something didn't feel right. Perhaps those fears manifested in Russell Wilson's finger injury. Once his throwing hand was damaged, after that sluggish start, goodbye playoff hopes. Geno Smith ain't driving you anywhere besides suboptimal playland. The whole offense performed like shit. And this isn't just a Wilson injury scenario, this kept happening even as he returned. Questions as to whether or not he was fully healthy aside, a nefarious narrative has emerged. Chef Russ was masking Seattle's glaring flaws for years. He couldn't bail them out like usual. So the Seahawks now suffer the worst-case scenario. A team without a clear vision, losing out on a precious top 10 pick for a box safety that hasn't been as advertised. One they had no choice but to pay the big bucks to. Pete Carroll may be past his expiration date, but he'll still be here. What about Russell Wilson? The trade rumors are coming back with a fury, and he might not want to waste more of his career here. Time will tell on that front, though. Perhaps uninstalling Ken Norton Jr.'s antivirus will be enough to stem the tide, but it just feels like the end of an era. The sad part is that they'll be known for passing the ball on the 1-yard line instead of, winning a fucking Super Bowl. Memes, you can't escape them.
High snap, put down. Joseph, come on! It is gone! No, he missed it! Good. Are you kidding me? He missed it right.
He missed it right.
Oh, my heavens.
Oh, my.
He missed it right.